Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar on how to create a competitive Master's of Science in Finance application. My name is Jared Williams, graduate recruiter here for the Lundquist College of Business.
And my name is Helene Sadevis. I'm the Assistant Director of the MSF program.
Fantastic. And today our goal is really just going to be able to help you stand out from the crowd and how to make a compelling argument for why you should join our program. There's a number of people who are going to be applying for the Master of Science in Finance program or any other graduate program that you may be applying for, and how do you make sure that your information really stands out? The other thing I want to mention up front is that the application actually is going to go live August the 15th. I think I may have mentioned in a previous email that it would go live today, so I just wanted to clear that up. But August the 15th, and that actually gives you plenty of time to continue to get all of your information, all of your ducks in a row, if you will. Hopefully that will not be the first of many duck puns, but
that was really terrible.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we'll see how many of those I can squeeze in. So, what are the steps in creating a competitive application? So, we're going to talk about the application process. We'll talk about transcripts. We'll talk about writing your statement of purpose, your resume, the various test scores that are needed, as well as the letter or letters of recommendation, and tips for interviewing and for your campus visit. So we'll go through all the pieces of those. So that'll be kind of the first steps. So first, application process. There are actually two different applications. One is to the Lundquist College of Business, which is directly to us, and the other is for the University of Oregon's Graduate School. There's a couple different reasons for each of those, and a couple different things you're going to want to pay attention to as you kind of go through that process. And we'll kind of take those things kind of each in turn. Before we go too deep into that, anything, Helena, this way you want to throw in?
Nothing. I just be aware that there are two applications. Some people forget to do the graduate school one, and we will not review your file until both have been completed.
Which is an excellent point. So the application for the Lundquist College of Business, you can log in through our website. If you go to University of Oregon's business website, and the website will be on our last page. But as a general rule, if you type in business and uoregon.edu, it's going to pull you in there. And then you go to the apply section, and you'll find that. So you'll create an account, and then you'll put some applicant information, about yourself. Address, where your undergraduate degree is from, basic things like that. If you've taken your GMAT or your GRE score, you can put that information in there as well. This is where you're going to include your recommendations, as well as where you're going to upload any of the various supporting materials that you're going to include. This is an area where if you have an unofficial transcript, definitely feel free to include that here. That way we can kind of take a look at that in advance. And that way, if you're calling to talk to myself or Helene to talk about the program, we can give you some advice based on the information that you've provided. And the more information you've provided, the better off we are going to be in terms of giving you good information about kind of next steps. And the graduate school application, you're going to create a separate account. Generally, you can use the same email address and password that's going to make life easier for you. It's going to ask you for some personal information as well as academic history. This is one where they will need your formal transcript, as well as where you're going to submit payment. There is a cost for the graduate school application. The application through the Lundquist College of Business is free, so there's only one payment piece you're going to have to do there. And I believe right now it is $70, Helene, am I correct?
$70 for domestic students and $90 for international.
Okay. So not a huge cost, but definitely something you want to make sure you're definitely interested and ready to go. I know there are definitely folks who apply to multiple programs, and those fees can definitely add up if you haven't decided that UO is going to be your number one choice. So let's talk a little bit about transcripts. So your unofficial transcript can be uploaded into the Master of Science Finance Lundquist College of Business application. As I mentioned, the University of Oregon Office of Admissions does need your official transcript. You can have that sent directly to them from your undergraduate university if you're not a University of Oregon undergrad. And the details for that are actually on our website. And there's basically just an address or an email address that you would give to your current college in order to have them send that transcript. But if they're a University of Oregon student, that's a little bit different. We've saved them some trouble.
Right. So if you're a University of Oregon undergrad, if you've graduated from the U of O, you would submit an unofficial transcript, and you can get one of those via DuckWeb. And then if you are admitted, you do not need to submit an official transcript ever, unless you went to another school.
Yeah. So if you're a University of Oregon undergrad, fantastic. We've kind of saved you some time. We already have your information, and we can get that. So fantastic. So the other stuff that they're going to ask for on the Lundquist College of Business is your statement of purpose. The statement of purpose is essentially, why do you want to get a Master's of Science in Finance? What are your goals? There are going to be a handful of questions that we're going to ask there. They are generally, why are you looking to get a Master's of Science in Finance? What is your long-term goals with that degree? How is it going to help you in the long term in terms of your career? And then the last piece is generally, how are you going to give back to the university? One of the things that's most important for us, and definitely in working with alums, is the continual engagement that we have with our alums. The Duck network is huge. Former Ducks are always willing and welcome to talk to folks who are kind of going through the program, who are in the graduate school or undergraduate school. And that's definitely something we wanted to continue. So we're curious about, what are you looking at next steps, both in terms of your career as well as about continuing to be a part of Duck life after you graduate. With that in mind, Helene, anything that you've seen in a statement of purpose that really kind of stands out to you?
Well, I've noticed that on that last prompt, when it asks you, how are you going to contribute, that's also a place where you can relate, your previous experiences or skills that will help you contribute to your MSF cohort. So how are you going to, work in teams while you're a student here? What can you offer the cohort that maybe another student can't offer? So those are the kinds of things we like to see in that section. And just a reminder, there are a number of prompts. There's 3, I think. Please address all of them, because your statement of purpose is incomplete if you don't address everything.
Absolutely. No, that's great advice. The other thing I would always talk about whenever you're writing a statement of purpose, or you're talking about, why you want to be a part of something, hopefully you're passionate about finance. There's something about finance that you're passionate about, and let that come through. There's nothing that the admissions committee likes more than to know that somebody is going to be really interested and passionate about the coursework that they're going to be pursuing. It's the first step to being successful, is that you really care about what you're doing. So you want to make sure that comes through as much as possible. So in terms of your resume, there's our resume guidelines are actually on our website, which makes that a little bit easier to kind of go through. But you're going to upload your resume, any work experience you've got, any academic experience. Make sure you're always including dates, and then we want to use the WHO approach. Do you want to talk a little bit about?
I don't know the WHO approach.
Okay, fantastic. So WHO is the what, how, and unfortunately I've forgotten the O. The opportunity.
That's what you wanted me to
go over. I was
so sneaky.
Yeah.
Audience very sneaky.
Yeah, but you can see all the guidelines on our website.
Opportunities?
Opportunities, I think. Yeah. Thank you. This is what happens when you turn the camera on.
Yeah.
So yeah. So but what were you doing? When were you doing it? And what other opportunities have you taken advantage of? Those are things you always want to make sure that you're including. If you don't have work experience, do you have volunteer experience? Do you have internships that you did in your undergrad? Include as many of those things as possible. Show that you are as well-rounded as you can be. And I think anything that maybe even adds, call it local color, if you will, to your resume. You are, and I say this in working a lot of folks in undergrad about their resumes, and young people with their resumes, they tend to think, oh, well, everyone's done that, or oh, this isn't important. You are way more interesting than you think you are. So include things that you don't necessarily think that the committee wants to hear about, because if you did some volunteer work, if you did some internship, if you did something that you think is a little unusual, I'd include it. I have an unpublished novel that I include on my resume. Is it really interesting? Probably not, but it does separate me out, and it gives the committee something to talk about when we get into an interview.
Okay. And just on a personal note, if you look at this John Doe resume up there, what I like about it is it's very simple, clean, and clear. Okay. I know I've seen some marketing resumes from students who are interested in doing the MBA for marketing or whatever, and there's just so many pictures and graphs and doohickeys on it. And for me, it's just distracting because really we just want to find out what you've been up to and how you might be able to contribute to the cohort. So just make it nice and clean and clear.
No, that's an excellent point. Yeah, your resume here isn't to show us how great you are at design.
Right. We don't care.
So the next step is we'll talk a little bit about test scores. We'll talk about the GMAT and the GRE. We accept both the GMAT and the GRE. It's totally up to you which of those you choose to take. The one thing I will mention is both of them have cost, and we'll kind of go through that, is if you're applying to multiple grad schools, figure out which one each of those schools will take, and then do that one, right? We'll take either the GMAT or GRE. If your number 2 choice or your number 3 choice only takes the GMAT, great, take the GMAT, send us that score, right? If your number 2 or number 3 choice only takes the GRE, then just take the GRE and send us that score. So that way you're not feeling like you have to take both, and do that in advance before you take that assessment. So here's a kind of a little breakdown of the two. Both scores, we do need scores available in the last 5 that have been taken in the last 5 years. In terms of the amount of time the test itself will take, it's pretty close. In terms of dollar value, again, we're looking, $250 for the GMAT, $205 for the GRE. So not a big difference there. The biggest difference is probably when it comes to how you test. In the GRE, you can skip questions that you're not comfortable with or flag questions to come back to. In the GMAT, you can't skip any questions. In the GRE, you do have access to a calculator for some of the quantitative pieces, and in the GMAT, you don't. So depending on how well you think you personally test, I think that's how I would make the decision on which one to use, aside from which colleges and universities are going to accept that. In terms of prepping, students who've been successful, what have they told you, Helene, about how to prep?
Some of them have done, the test prep companies, the online or even, attending the class. But I think most people kind of study on their own.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not a question I ask very often.
Yeah.
Occasionally I will, if I'm thinking like, what have you been doing the past 6 months?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
I will say, from talking to the folks who just started our most recent cohort that started in July, I did ask a handful of them in prep for this, kind of what they did for the GRE. And the biggest thing that came up over and over and over again was they do a lot of the free practice assessments. Mm-hmm. There are, I found 8 or 12 free GMAT alone assessments you can take online, and find a GMAT study guide. Maybe you're going to sign up for one of the test prep things, but take as many of those tests as possible. Most people spread them out a week or 2 apart. That way, when you actually get time to test, you feel really confident in stepping into that. One of the other tests we take, if you are an international student and English is not your native language, we do require an English proficiency test. There are 2 different versions of that. There's the TOEFL and the IELTS. Minimum score for the TOEFL would be 96, and then for the IELTS, it would be 7.0. If you have specific questions about either one of those and you want to send those to me, feel free to email that, and I'll walk you through that as much as I can.
Okay, and for international students who have received their bachelor's degree or will receive their bachelor's degree from a U.S. institution, you do not need to supply this test.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great point.
It's waived.
And actually, that reminds me of something I was mentioned on the GMAT or GRE, but if you are a STEM student, especially from the University of Oregon, so you are a finance background, econ background, something like that, and have a GPA of 3.25 or better, you can apply for a GMAT or GRE waiver. So if you come from a STEM background, if you come from a course that touches on finance, then there's an opportunity to waive that the GMAT or GRE score and save you a little bit of time and energy both in putting that together. So it would have been remiss not to mention that. So your letter or letters of recommendation. So when you go on to the Lundquist College of Business website, you'll actually have a chance to put in your recommender. So you'll put in their contact information, and then we will send that to them. Now, this can be a professional recommendation. There are folks in the Master of Arts and Finance program who have worked, who have been out of college for quite a while, and definitely were able to take that. Also, a professor that you have worked closely with in your undergrad who is familiar with you, makes a tremendous recommender as well. And what do we want them to talk about? Well, we want to talk about your intellectual capacity. How well were you doing in your courses? Do they believe that you're going to be able to do well in a pretty tough master's program? What's been your motivation? What's your work ethic look like, as well as your maturity? So those are the kind of things that we want to see on that. Anything that's kind of stood out for you in terms of recommendation letters?
No, but I must say that if the letter is coming from a faculty member, I like to see it from a course you took that is quantitative in nature. That way they can attest to your strength in that area.
Absolutely, yeah. If you are an econ major and you also took a literature class, I'm glad you did really well in the literature class, but we're probably more interested in talking to one of your econ professors.
Right.
Yeah, great point. So once you put all of that in, if everything looks solid, you'll be invited to an interview as well as a campus visit. So that's something that if you're not already in the area, let's schedule that. You can reach out to our office here at the Graduate Programs Office and schedule a campus visit. You don't have to wait for an invite in order to do that. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to show you around, show you the Lundquist College of Business. And depending on the time of year, we'd love to be able to maybe have you sit in on a class. And also give you a tour of the larger university as well. So you're always welcome to reach out to schedule that. In terms of the interview, generally you'll be meeting with two folks who are in the advising team. Not a lot I want to go through the interview, but there is one piece of advice I generally give everyone when they're interviewing, and that's in terms of how to answer behavioral questions. Those behavioral questions are describe a time when you blank. You're going to get that a lot in every interview that you're going to do in your life, whether that's applying for a job or whether you're applying to a graduate program. And there's an acronym that I have used in the past in terms of teaching this to students and to other folks when I worked in the corporate world, and that's the STAR method. If you can kind of walk through the STAR method and hit each of those letters in the acronym, you're going to be really successful and hopefully provide a really good answer. So what does that mean? So S is the situation. So if I ask you a time that you worked with a difficult colleague, excellent. Describe the situation. Where did you work? What was your relationship with the colleague? Right? Give me as much kind of contextual factors as possible. T is the task. So what was it that you were doing when this scenario occurred? Right? So again, tell me a little bit more about the specifics of the job. The action. So what did you do? So you were having trouble with a difficult colleague. Excellent. So you were having trouble because you were on this particular work panel together and you were working side by side, and then there was some sort of a disagreement. So what actions did you take to try to resolve this? And then what people sometimes tend to forget at the end of those interview questions is R. That's the results. How did this end? It doesn't always have to end positively. Every answer you give in a behavioral interview question doesn't have to be how you were the hero. If you tried something and it went poorly, that's fine. What did you learn from that? And if you can share, well, I tried this and that didn't work, and if I was in that scenario again, I would do this differently, and here's what I would do. I think that's really valid. Right? In terms of interviewing, anything you want to add on to that, Helene?
Not really. It's I find them a lot of fun. I try to put the candidate at ease. So as much as possible, just try to relax. We're not here to, trip you up or give you trick questions. We want you to do well. So I hope you'll feel comfortable with us. Absolutely.
I think the goal of the interview is just to make sure that you're going to be successful in the program. That's the whole point of that. The other thing I'll add in is most interviews are business professionals. So I would dress up for your interview. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and I think it speaks well of you and it shows respect for the folks that you're interviewing with if you dress professionally for that. So just something to think about. And a lot of times folks are interested in what the class profile might look like. So this is the average class profile of the three Bachelor of Science in Finance cohorts. We have an average GPA of 3.2, a GMAT score of 620, or a GRE of 310. Most of them come from STEM backgrounds, your finance, your business majors, economics. Their TOEFL or IELTS scores are higher than the bare mittens, which is 100% for the TOEFL and 7.5 for IELTS. And overall, with the three cohorts, we've averaged about 62% male and 38% female. So in terms of that. So that gives you kind of a sense of kind of what the class looks like. The other thing I would mention is that you see a lot of folks from very different backgrounds. I don't have on here the breakdown of domestic versus international students. Is that?
Yeah, it's about 40% international right now.
Okay. Which is, I think, fantastic. If you are a domestic student and are looking to really grow in the world of finance, the more you can get to know and work with and understand the cultures of international students, the better off you're going to be in that larger world. I think we learn a whole lot from them. And for international students, obviously, there's a relatively large population to kind of help people kind of get along. If you didn't have your undergrad in America, and this is your first entry into the States, there's definitely other people in that cohort that will make you feel welcome and like home. So that kind of wraps up our presentation. So if there's any additional questions on the application process, again, the application should be live August the 15th at our website. Any questions, though, that we can answer at this point? All right, fantastic. Well, I'm going to take that to mean that I've done and Helene have done a tremendous job of kind of covering all the things that are really important. My phone number and email address are up on the screen, so feel free to reach out to us at any point if you have any questions at all. I'm really excited if you're interested in the Master of Science Finance program to talk about the program and answer any additional questions you may have. Other than that, Helene, any closing thoughts?
No, you may also, contact me. I am the primary advisor for all the MSF students. So if you want to hear more about, the day-to-day class schedule or what it looks like, during the 12 months here, I'm happy to talk to you about that too.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much.